Welcome to this channel, where we explore the deeper questions of faith, culture, and human connection. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe so you can join us on this journey of discovery. In today's video, we are tackling an important and often overlooked subject, bridging the gap between Rastafari and other faiths. Religion has long been both a source of unity and a point of division. In a world where we are more connected than ever before, interfaith dialogue is not only valuable, it is necessary. Conversations that build understanding across traditions help us to break down walls of prejudice and create bridges of respect. Rastafari, a movement that began in Jamaica in the 1930s, is often misunderstood by those who encounter it from the outside. Many associate it only with reggae music or stereotypes around lifestyle, without recognizing the depth of its spiritual foundation. Rooted in the teachings of Marcus Garvey and the coronation of Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia, Rastafari is more than culture. It is a way of life, centered on devotion to Jah, reverence for Africa, and resistance against systems of oppression. Its values emphasize natural living, community, and the pursuit of spiritual liberation. This video sets out to explore how Rastafari relates to other world religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and even Eastern traditions. We will not only highlight differences, but also uncover shared values that can bring people together. By examining these intersections, we hope to inspire mutual respect, deeper dialogue, and the possibility of unity across faiths. So, stay with us as we journey into this subject. And remember, subscribing ensures you won't miss the next step in our series of conversations about spirituality and human connection. To understand how Rastafari can engage in dialogue with other faiths, we must first explore where it comes from. Rastafari is not simply a religion imported from abroad. It is a spiritual movement born out of the struggles, hopes, and creativity of the African diaspora. Its roots are deeply tied to history, specifically the experiences of colonialism, slavery, and the longing for freedom. The movement emerged in Jamaica during the early 1930s, a time when the country was still under British rule and the descendants of enslaved Africans faced poverty, racism, and cultural dislocation. Amid this environment of oppression, a visionary leader named Marcus Garvey began to preach a message of black pride, self-reliance, and a return to Africa. Although Garvey himself did not found Rastafari, his call for liberation and his famous prophecy about a black king in Africa prepared the ground for the movement to take shape. That prophecy seemed fulfilled when Rastafari Makonnen was crowned Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia in 1930. For many Jamaicans, this event was a spiritual turning point. Ethiopia was seen as a symbol of independence, the one African nation that resisted colonization. Haile Selassie's coronation was interpreted by early Rastafari pioneers as the arrival of the promised Redeemer, a living sign of divine authority on earth. Out of this conviction, the Rastafari faith was born, taking its name directly from Haile Selassie's pre-coronation title, Rastafari. From the beginning, Rastafari was more than religious doctrine. It was also a cultural and political force. It rejected the systems of Babylon, a term used to describe colonial powers and institutions that perpetuate injustice. In contrast, it uplifted the idea of Zion, representing Africa, freedom, and divine order. This symbolic language gave expression to the lived experience of struggle and the vision of liberation. As the movement developed, it drew on biblical narratives familiar to Jamaicans through Christianity, reinterpreting them in ways that placed Africa at the center of salvation history. Stories of the Israelites' captivity in Egypt and their journey to the Promised Land resonated with the descendants of enslaved Africans who longed for deliverance. This rereading of Scripture provided both comfort and empowerment, offering a vision of identity that affirmed dignity and spiritual worth. By the mid-20th century, Rastafari began to attract international attention, especially through the music of reggae artists who carried its messages to the world. Figures like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Burning Spear helped to spread Rastafari's philosophy of justice, love, and resistance beyond Jamaica's shores. As a result, what began as a local movement of marginalized people became a global spiritual voice with influence far beyond its small beginnings. Understanding these historical roots is crucial. Rastafari was not simply adopted. It was created in response to a particular context of suffering and hope. It is a faith that insists on dignity in the face of oppression and offers a vision of liberation not only for its followers, but for all humanity. This foundation will help us see how Rastafari relates to other religions and why dialogue between traditions is both possible and necessary. Now that we've looked at the history, let's explore the core beliefs that define Rastafari. These beliefs are not only spiritual doctrines. They shape a way of life and a vision of how human beings should live in harmony with one another and with creation. At the center of Rastafari is the belief in Jah, the living God. Jah is often identified with the God of the Bible, yet understood in a way that emphasizes closeness and presence. For Rastafari, God is not distant. Jah is within creation, within each person, and especially revealed in the life and reign of Emperor Haile Selassie. His coronation confirmed for many that God had fulfilled prophecy and that Africa remained central to humanity's spiritual story. Another defining element is the concept of livity, which refers to living in a way that reflects divine order. Livity is not just about what one believes, but how one lives. It calls for simplicity, truthfulness, and a lifestyle that avoids the corruption of what Rastafari call Babylon, the system of materialism, oppression, and exploitation. To live with livity is to walk in alignment with Jah's will. Closely connected to this is the Ital lifestyle. Ital means pure and natural, and it guides dietary practices that avoid processed foods, artificial additives, and anything that might bring harm to the body. Many followers of Rastafari practice vegetarianism or veganism, seeing the body as a temple that should be kept clean to reflect spiritual purity. Ital living is not just about diet, though. It extends to clothing, speech, and daily choices that honor life. The image most often associated with Rastafari, dreadlocks, is also rooted in spiritual meaning. Dreadlocks symbolize the Lion of Judah, representing strength, identity, and resistance against oppression. For many, wearing locks is an outward sign of an inner commitment to live as a child of Jah and to reject the pressure to conform to Babylon standards. Another profound belief is the vision of Zion versus Babylon. Babylon is seen as the world system that enforces inequality, exploitation, and cultural disconnection. Zion, by contrast, is the promised homeland, often identified with Ethiopia and Africa as a whole, but also symbolizing spiritual freedom and justice. This dual vision shapes how Rastafari understand the struggles of life and their hope for a redeemed future. These beliefs are not static dogmas. They are lived realities that guide daily actions and global outlook. They offer both a critique of the injustices of the world and a vision of what a better, more righteous life could look like. Before we move forward, if you're finding this exploration meaningful, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and share it with friends who might benefit from learning more about Rastafari. And in the comments, tell us what you think about these core beliefs. Do they resonate with your own values? Your thoughts help us build a real community of learning and dialogue. With these foundational beliefs in mind, we can now explore how Rastafari engages with other traditions, starting with Christianity. When we compare Rastafari with Christianity, we find both deep connections and striking differences. In many ways, Rastafari is built upon a foundation of Christian scripture. The Bible is the central text of the movement, and its stories, symbols, and prophecies are essential to the Rastafari worldview. Yet, the way those scriptures are interpreted often challenges mainstream Christian traditions. For most Rastafari, the Old and New Testaments are not abstract or distant writings. They are living texts that speak directly to the struggles and liberation of African people. The story of the Israelites in bondage in Egypt and their deliverance into the Promised Land is read as a mirror of the transatlantic slave trade and the ongoing oppression of the African diaspora. Babylon, a term drawn from the Bible, becomes a symbol of colonialism, Western materialism, and the structures of inequality. In this way, Scripture is re-centered around the experience of Black people and their fight for freedom. One of the most debated points between Rastafari and mainstream Christianity is the status of Haile Selassie. Many Christians honor him as an important historical figure, but stop short of seeing him as divine. Rastafari, However, identify celibacy as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy and a manifestation of Jah. For them, passages like Psalm 87 and references to the Lion of Judah are evidence that Selasi's reign was divinely ordained. This belief creates a divide, but it also opens up profound conversations about how God can be revealed in history. At the same time, there are many areas of overlap. Both Rastafari and Christianity emphasize love, justice, and community. Both traditions call people to live in a way that reflects the divine image, to care for one another, and to resist the forces of evil. The teachings of Jesus about compassion and the Sermon on the Mount resonate deeply with the values of liberty and the rejection of Babylon. Even though Rastafari often critique the institutional church, they share the desire for a world where righteousness prevails. Music has also been a bridge between the two traditions. Gospel music and reggae may seem very different, but both are forms of spiritual expression that carry messages of hope, resistance, and faith. Songs inspired by scripture and rooted in spirituality create spaces where Rastafari and Christians alike can connect on a deeper level. By engaging with Christianity, Rastafari challenged the church to reconsider issues of race, justice, and liberation. In turn, Christians are invited to recognize the sincerity and depth of Rastafari faith, even when they may disagree on certain theological points. This dialogue is not about erasing differences, but about finding common ground in shared values and the pursuit of truth. If this part of the discussion is opening new perspectives for you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next section of this series. Give the video a like if you're learning something new, and share it with friends who care about interfaith dialogue. And let us know in the comments, where do you see the strongest connections between Rastafari and Christianity? Next, we will turn to another important conversation: the relationship between Rastafari and Judaism. The connection between Rastafari and Judaism runs deep, rooted in shared scripture and a common sense of identity shaped by exile and the hope of return. Both traditions look to the Hebrew Bible, or Old Testament, as a source of divine guidance. For Rastafari, these writings are not only sacred history, but a living narrative that mirrors the struggles of African people. One of the most striking parallels is the story of the Israelites' captivity in Egypt and their deliverance into the Promised Land. For centuries, Jewish tradition has seen this as the defining moment of God's saving power. Rastafari interpret it in a similar way, identifying themselves with the children of Israel and seeing their own experience of slavery, displacement, and colonial rule as a continuation of that story. Just as the Israelites were led out of bondage, Rastafari believe that the African diaspora is destined for liberation and a return to Zion. The idea of Zion itself links the two traditions. For Jews, Zion refers to Jerusalem and the land of Israel, the spiritual and historical homeland. For Rastafari, Zion often represents Ethiopia and Africa more broadly, but the essence is the same. Zion is a place of freedom, justice, and divine presence. Both traditions long for a homeland where people can live in alignment with God's will, free from oppression. Dietary practices also create points of connection. Many Jews observe kosher laws that regulate what can and cannot be eaten, grounding their lives in holiness. Rastafari, through the Ital lifestyle, emphasize purity, natural foods, and respect for the body. While the details differ, both approaches highlight the idea that what we eat is tied to our spiritual identity. Yet there are also differences. Rastafari do not follow rabbinic traditions or the intricate legal structures that shape Jewish religious life. Their emphasis is less on ritual law and more on living in harmony with nature and resisting Babylon. Still, the shared reverence for scripture and the overlapping symbols of exile, covenant, and homeland create a strong basis for dialogue. By exploring these connections, Rastafari and Judaism can recognize their shared history of resilience and their common hope for redemption. In doing so, they remind the world that ancient stories still carry meaning for modern struggles. If you're finding value in this exploration, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others who are interested in interfaith connections. And in the comments, tell us, how do you see the parallels between Rastafari and Judaism? Do you think the shared vision of Zion can bring these traditions closer together? Next, we'll continue by looking at the relationship between Rastafari and Islam. Rastafari and Islam may appear very different at first glance. Yet when we look deeper, we find meaningful points of connection. Both traditions emphasize monotheism, the belief in one supreme God who governs creation. For Muslims, God is Allah, the source of mercy and justice. For Rastafari, God is Jah, the living presence within and beyond all things. Though the names differ, both faiths affirm that true life begins with surrender to the divine. Another area of connection is their shared resistance to materialism and injustice. Islam calls for simplicity, humility, and the rejection of arrogance and greed. Rastafari similarly reject Babylon, the system of oppression and exploitation that corrupts humanity. Both traditions warn against chasing wealth at the expense of righteousness, instead encouraging believers to live lives of integrity and compassion. Ethiopia also plays an important role in linking the two. In Islamic history, Ethiopia is remembered as a place of refuge. When the early followers of Prophet Muhammad faced persecution in Mecca, they fled across the Red Sea to the Christian kingdom of Abyssinia, where they found safety under a just king. This moment of hospitality and protection is a cherished story in Islam, and it resonates with Rastafari, who see Ethiopia as the spiritual homeland and the symbol of divine order. Despite these shared values, differences remain. Islam recognizes Muhammad as the final prophet, while Rastafari do not. The Quran is the central text of Islam, while Rastafari interpret the Bible as their sacred scripture. Yet these differences need not create hostility. Instead, they can open the way for dialogue about how God reveals truth across cultures and histories. One of the most powerful shared values is peace. The very word Islam comes from the root word salam, meaning peace. Rastafari too envision a world of peace, justice, and harmony, often described as Zion. Both traditions seek a future where humanity lives free from oppression and aligned with divine will. By highlighting these common values, Rastafari and Islam can build bridges of understanding. Such dialogue does not erase differences, but encourages respect, showing that faith traditions can work side by side for justice and unity. If you've been enjoying this exploration, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this video so others can join the conversation. And let us know in the comments. Do you think Rastafari and Islam can find stronger connections through their shared vision of peace and justice? Up next, we'll explore the fascinating connections between Rastafari and Eastern religions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism. Rastafari and Eastern religions. When we turn to Eastern religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism, we may not immediately see the connections with Rastafari. Yet, beneath the surface, there are shared values and practices that create opportunities for meaningful dialogue. At the heart of these traditions lies a search for harmony with life, respect for the natural world, and a focus on the spiritual journey of the individual. Rastafari emphasize livity, a way of life that aligns the body, mind, and spirit with divine order. In a similar way, Buddhism teaches mindfulness, compassion, and the pursuit of enlightenment, while Hinduism emphasizes living in accordance with Dharma or cosmic law. These parallels show how distant traditions can arrive at similar conclusions. True spirituality requires integrity, balance, and respect for all life. Dietary practices provide another point of connection. Many Hindus and Buddhists embrace vegetarianism as part of nonviolence and respect for creation. Rastafari follow Ital living, which calls for natural, plant-based foods and avoidance of anything artificial or harmful. Though born in different cultural contexts, these practices reflect a shared belief that the body is sacred and should be cared for through conscious living. Meditation and inward reflection are also bridges. Rastafari often use reasoning sessions and spiritual meditation, accompanied by the chanting of psalms or the rhythm of drums, to connect with Jah. In Buddhism and Hinduism, meditation is central to accessing higher awareness and cultivating inner peace. While the methods differ, the goal of deepening one's spiritual connection unites these paths. Of course, there are differences. Hinduism includes a wide range of deities, and Buddhism often emphasizes a non-theistic approach, while Rastafari are firmly monotheistic, recognizing Jah as the living God. Yet the differences need not prevent dialogue. Instead, they highlight the diverse ways humanity seeks connection with the sacred. By recognizing these intersections, Rastafari and Eastern traditions remind us that spirituality is not confined to one culture or one path. At their core, they encourage respect for creation, inner transformation, and the pursuit of harmony. These are universal truths that can bring people together despite cultural or theological differences. If you are finding these interfaith connections inspiring, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others who are curious about spirituality. And in the comments, tell us, what similarities do you see between Rastafari and Eastern traditions? Do you think practices like ital living and meditation can bring people of different faiths closer together? After exploring Rastafari's connections with Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Eastern religions, it becomes clear that, despite differences, there are shared values that unite these traditions. Recognizing this common ground is essential for building mutual understanding and fostering dialogue. One of the most powerful shared principles is the emphasis on compassion and justice. Almost every faith encourages adherents to care for the vulnerable, speak out against oppression, and promote fairness in society. Rastafari's commitment to resisting Babylon aligns closely with Christianity's call for justice, Islam's emphasis on ethical conduct, Judaism's pursuit of righteousness, and Eastern teachings on harmony with life. Respect for life and creation is another unifying theme. Rastafari practice ital living, valuing natural foods and sustainable living. Similarly, Eastern religions emphasize nonviolence and mindfulness toward all beings. Even Abrahamic traditions stress stewardship of the earth and the responsibility to act as caretakers of God's creation. These shared values demonstrate that caring for our world is not bound by one faith, but is a universal principle. Music and spiritual expression also bridge divides. Reggae, inspired by Rastafari, conveys messages of hope, liberation, and unity. Gospel, hymns, chants, and meditative mantras in other traditions serve similar purposes. They connect communities, inspire devotion, and remind listeners of universal truths. Spiritual expression becomes a language that transcends doctrinal differences. Finally, the aspiration for peace and connection unites all faiths. Each tradition envisions a world where humans live in harmony with each other and with the divine. By focusing on these shared goals rather than the differences, communities can build bridges that honor diversity while promoting understanding and collaboration. If you're enjoying this exploration, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can engage with these ideas. And in the comments, tell us, what values do you see as most universal across faiths? How do you think different religions can work together to create a more just and compassionate world? While the shared values between Rastafari and other faiths are clear, bridging the gap is not without challenges. Misconceptions and stereotypes remain one of the biggest obstacles. Many people still associate Rastafari solely with reggae music, dreadlocks, or cannabis use, overlooking the deep spiritual, ethical, and cultural dimensions of the faith. These misunderstandings can create prejudice and hinder meaningful dialogue. Institutional resistance also presents a challenge. Established religious organizations may be wary of alternative interpretations of scripture or different forms of worship. For Rastafari, which often critiques formal hierarchies and emphasizes personal connection with Jah, this can make engagement with other faiths complicated. Finding common ground requires patience, humility, and a willingness to listen without imposing rigid expectations. Cultural and political barriers also play a role. Historical oppression, colonial legacies, and social inequalities affect how communities interact and trust one another. Conversations across faiths must acknowledge these realities to foster genuine understanding. Despite these difficulties, the effort is worthwhile. By confronting misconceptions, respecting differences, and focusing on shared values, it is possible to create bridges that strengthen both Rastafari and other faith communities. Dialogue and collaboration can transform challenges into opportunities for growth, understanding, and unity. If you're finding this discussion meaningful, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can join the conversation. And in the comments, tell us, what challenges do you think are most significant when bringing different faiths together? How can we overcome them? While challenges exist, there are clear pathways for building bridges between Rastafari and other faiths. One of the most effective methods is interfaith dialogue, spaces where people of different traditions can come together to share beliefs, practices, and stories. These conversations help dispel misconceptions and create mutual understanding. Cultural exchange is another important tool. Music, art, and literature inspired by Rastafari and other traditions can bring communities together. Reggae concerts, spiritual festivals, and collaborative projects allow people to experience faith beyond doctrine, emphasizing shared human values like love, justice, and peace. Grassroots initiatives also play a key role. Community programs that focus on education, social justice, and environmental sustainability offer opportunities for collaboration across faiths. Working side by side toward common goals helps participants see beyond differences and recognize the shared desire for a better world. Education and awareness are equally important. Learning about the history, values, and beliefs of other traditions fosters empathy and respect. When people understand the deeper meaning behind practices like Ital living, meditation, or Sabbath observance, they are more likely to engage openly and respectfully. These pathways are practical, achievable, and transformative. They remind us that unity is not about erasing differences, but about celebrating diversity while pursuing shared goals. If you're inspired by these ideas, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share it with others who care about interfaith dialogue. And in the comments, let us know, what steps do you think are most effective for building bridges between faiths? How can we create more opportunities for understanding and collaboration? While challenges exist, there are clear pathways for building bridges between Rastafari and other faiths. One of the most effective methods is interfaith dialogue, spaces where people of different traditions can come together to share beliefs, practices, and stories. These conversations help dispel misconceptions and create mutual understanding. Cultural exchange is another important tool. Music, art, and literature inspired by Rastafari and other traditions can bring communities together. Reggae concerts, spiritual festivals, and collaborative projects allow people to experience faith beyond doctrine, emphasizing shared human values like love, justice, and peace. Grassroots initiatives also play a key role. Community programs that focus on education, social justice, and environmental sustainability offer opportunities for collaboration across faiths. Working side by side toward common goals helps participants see beyond differences and recognize the shared desire for a better world. Education and awareness are equally important. Learning about the history, values, and beliefs of other traditions fosters empathy and respect. When people understand the deeper meaning behind practices like Ital living, meditation, or Sabbath observance, they are more likely to engage openly and respectfully. These pathways are practical, achievable, and transformative. They remind us that unity is not about erasing differences, but about celebrating diversity while pursuing shared goals. If you're inspired by these ideas, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share it with others who care about interfaith dialogue. And in the comments, let us know, what steps do you think are most effective for building bridges between faiths? How can we create more opportunities for understanding and collaboration? As we reach the end of this exploration into Rastafari and its connections with other faiths, it is clear that bridging gaps between traditions is both necessary and deeply rewarding. From Christianity to Judaism, Islam, and Eastern religions, Rastafari shares core values such as compassion, justice, respect for life, and the pursuit of spiritual truth. At the same time, its unique perspective, rooted in history, culture, and the lived experience of African diaspora communities, offers a fresh lens through which to understand faith, liberation, and human connection. Throughout this video, we have seen that differences between traditions need not be obstacles. Instead, they can spark dialogue, encourage learning, and inspire collaboration. Whether it is the shared longing for Zion, the emphasis on ethical living, or the pursuit of peace and harmony, these common threads demonstrate that spirituality is ultimately about connection with God, with creation, and with one another. Of course, challenges remain. Misconceptions about Rastafari, institutional barriers, and cultural or political tensions can make dialogue difficult. But acknowledging these challenges is the first step toward overcoming them. By engaging in thoughtful conversation, Participating in cultural exchanges, supporting grassroots initiatives, and educating ourselves about one another's traditions, we can create genuine opportunities for unity. Each small step, an open conversation, a shared meal, a collaborative project, contributes to a larger vision of mutual respect and understanding. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the connections between Rastafari and other faiths? Did any similarities or differences surprise you? How do you think communities can work together to build bridges across traditions? Share your reflections in the comments, and let us know what video topics you would like us to explore next. Your input helps shape the content we create and ensures that these conversations remain relevant, inclusive, and engaging. If you have enjoyed this video, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel so you can stay connected with our series on spirituality and interfaith dialogue. Hit the like button to show your support, and share this video with friends, family, or anyone who would benefit from learning about the ways different faiths can come together. By engaging with this content, you are not only expanding your own understanding, but also helping to foster a broader culture of respect and cooperation. Remember, spirituality is not confined to one religion or one way of thinking. It is a shared human experience, a journey of discovering meaning, connection, and purpose. Whether through music, prayer, meditation, ethical living, or dialogue, every effort to understand one another brings us closer to a world where differences are celebrated rather than feared. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to comment with your opinions, share your experiences, and suggest topics for future videos. Together, we can continue exploring the beauty, depth, and unity that exists across all faiths and inspire others to take part in building bridges of understanding.